Wars are rarely fought under ideal conditions. They unfold in mud, snow, scorching heat, smoke, panic, and exhaustion. Soldiers fight not in perfect ranges or polished battlefields, but in chaos, where supply lines collapse, training breaks down, and orders are ignored. Weapons are tested not by engineers, but by reality itself, and reality is unforgiving. Most rifles, no matter how precise or advanced on paper, fail when the environment, stress, or human error comes into play. Yet there is one weapon that defies these odds. The AK-47, a rifle born from disaster, persists where everything else fails. The story begins in 1941, when Nazi Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion in history. Millions of German soldiers poured into the Soviet Union with tanks, artillery, and well-trained infantry, while the Red Army was caught unprepared. Entire formations crumbled, cities fell in weeks, and casualties soared. Among those fighting on the front lines was a young tank commander named Mikhail Kalashnikov, a farm boy from Siberia who had grown up around engines and machinery. He was not an engineer, not a weapons designer, but a man who understood machines in the most practical sense. In October 1941, during the Battle of Bryansk, his tank was struck by enemy fire, leaving him badly wounded. Evacuated to a hospital, Kalashnikov spent months recovering, and it was during this convalescence that the seed of a revolutionary idea took root. While lying in a hospital bed, Kalashnikov listened to soldiers speak of their experiences. They complained of rifles that jammed, submachine guns that misfired, and weapons that failed when they were needed most. The conversation never revolved around technical specifications or theory. It revolved around survival, reliability, and the brutal truth that a weapon that fails once might as well fail forever. Kalashnikov began sketching his own designs, initially crude submachine guns and light machine guns, but none were adopted immediately. What made him remarkable was his understanding of the soldier's perspective. He designed weapons for the conditions they would actually face, not the ones envisioned by engineers in laboratories. The devastation of the war and lessons from captured German weapons, particularly the G-44 assault rifle, influenced the Soviet Union's vision for a new infantry weapon. The STG-44 demonstrated the potential of an intermediate cartridge, more powerful than a pistol round, yet lighter than a traditional rifle cartridge, allowing for controllable automatic fire at medium ranges. After the war, the Soviets issued a clear requirement: a rifle that could operate in all conditions, be produced cheaply in vast quantities, and be effective in both semi-automatic and fully automatic modes. It would not be elegant or precise. It needed to survive the chaos of real warfare. Kalashnikov's design philosophy was simple but profound. Soldiers are human. Machines are not. They will drop their weapons, fail to maintain them, operate them in extreme weather, and use them under stress, fear, and exhaustion. Therefore, the weapon itself had to forgive every failure. His design borrowed proven mechanisms: a long-stroke gas piston, a rotating bolt, and a robust receiver. But it was the integration and simplicity that made it extraordinary. Every component served one goal: ensure the rifle would continue firing, no matter what. When the Automat Kalashnikova 1947 or AK-47 was finalized, it was far from perfect in the traditional sense. Its accuracy was lower than contemporary Western rifles, and its finish was utilitarian at best. But in the field, the AK-47 thrived where others faltered. Its loose tolerances allowed mud, sand, and ice to pass through the action without jamming. Its long-stroke piston delivered consistent energy, keeping rounds cycling even under abuse. Soldiers could drop it, bury it, or neglect it, and it would still function. Its design embraced imperfection, turning what would be weaknesses in other rifles into advantages. Production initially relied on milled receivers, which were expensive and labor-intensive. But by the 1950s, stamped receivers simplified manufacturing dramatically, allowing the rifle to be produced in vast numbers at low cost. The Soviet Union distributed the AK-47 to its own forces and exported it to Allied states. Over time, factories appeared across Eastern Europe, China, North Korea, and later Africa and the Middle East. Some nations produced licensed copies, while others simply replicated the design. The rifle became ubiquitous not because it was technologically superior, but because it was reliable, cheap, and easy to use. Its simplicity meant that recruits could be trained in hours rather than weeks, and it could be repaired with basic tools or improvised parts. Magazines could be dented and still feed rounds. Ammunition could be reused, scavenged, or produced locally. Its durability under harsh conditions made it ideal for insurgencies, guerrilla forces, and irregular militias, as well as regular armies. Across Vietnam, the Middle East, Africa, and countless conflicts, the AK-47 appeared again and again, often in the hands of the unprepared, the inexperienced, or the desperate. In every scenario, it worked. By the late 20th century, the AK-47 was more than a rifle. It was a symbol. It represented survival under chaos, a tool that enabled individuals and armies to continue fighting when everything else had failed. It appeared on flags, in propaganda, and in the hands of countless soldiers, rebels, and revolutionaries worldwide. Its spread was not an accident of design alone. It was the product of industrial simplicity, adaptability, and the brutal reality of modern warfare. Mikhail Kalashnikov lived long enough to see the rifle he designed become the most widely used firearm in history. He received medals, recognition, and praise, yet he remained humble about its role. He insisted that it had been created to defend his homeland, never to fuel global conflict. Still, even he could not escape the truth. The AK-47 had shaped wars, revolutions, and nations in ways no designer could have predicted. Today, conservative estimates suggest that over 100 million AK-47s and derivatives exist worldwide. More soldiers have fired an AK than any other weapon in history, and it continues to endure conflicts, natural disasters, and neglect where others would fail. It succeeded not because it was beautiful, precise, or technologically advanced, but because it was built to survive human error, environmental extremes, and the chaos of battle. When everything else fails, the AK-47 keeps firing, and in that, it is unmatched. In the end, the AK-47's story is not just about a weapon. It is about inevitability, adaptation, and resilience. It is a reminder that, in war, survival is often more important than perfection, and that the simplest solutions, forged in the heat of failure and human need, can shape the world in ways no one anticipates. The rifle was designed to endure, and endure it has for decades beyond its maker's imagining. In every conflict, every battlefield, and every hand that grips it, the AK-47 proves one immutable truth. When everything else fails, it works.